So let's talk about one of the most important language materials, language objects, language activity that we have in the classroom. I would argue the most important language object, language material in the classroom, and that is you. Teachers. We're it. We're the most important language object in the classroom. So let's talk about this a little bit. What do children learn from speaking with adults? So much. And why is that? Let's talk a little bit about why that is. A little more. If you look at this photo I've chosen, it's a photo of me. You could probably guess by looking at it. I didn't choose it because it's flattering. But it's myself with a few students and taken many years ago. And I chose it because of what the children in this photo are doing. What I'm doing, I don't exactly remember, but I'm reading or I'm discussing something on that paper. But the children aren't looking at the paper, are they? They're looking at my face because I am speaking. And it's not because I'm the best speaker or what I was saying was super exciting. If it was, I would probably remember what it was that I was saying. They're looking at my face because they're completely drawn to my human voice, as we've discussed in the previous lesson. They're wired to look at the human that is speaking to them. And that is why they do learn so much when we're speaking with them. So what are they learning? They're learning, pretty obvious, probably to you, is vocabulary. So the amount of words, which type of words, the words they say, the words they understand, the words that later in life they'll be able to read, it's all learned from their interaction with adults. And you may have heard this before, that research shows that the amount of words a young child hears in their environment from a living person, not television, has a direct correlation with later literacy and academic success. They're also learning grammar. Children, especially children in the first 6 years of life, but even going beyond a bit, learn grammar without effort, right? When a child as young as 3, once they're speaking in full sentences, and that can happen before 3, will use the grammar of their native tongue, the language they're learning, and they won't have to think about it. They won't have to know how to diagram a sentence. Remember that? Did you do that, diagram sentences? None of that. They will just pick up the order of the words, things like, do you use the adjective before the noun? All right, how we structure our sentences. They learn without effort, just by speaking with adults, by listening to the adults speak. They'll also learn the accent used by their community. And their first community would be their family, and then as they enter the classroom, they'll learn the accent used in the school community and then the community beyond. So even within the same country, like the United States, if you're in Washington, the accent will be different than an accent maybe in rural Alabama. Now, those first three have more to do with how the children will actually use language and how the child will speak themselves. But there's much more that is taught and picked up from the teachers when they're speaking with the children and when they're speaking with each other, right? Because they're always listening, they're always drawn to our language. And from other children, of course, speaking to each other. Beliefs are learned through language, right? What do the people around me believe? What do they expect me to believe? What do they hope I will believe? So examples of beliefs include things like women are as capable as men. Children are important. People are more important than things. Right? All of these are gleaned, are learned, or picked up from the children just by our day-to-day language, what we're talking about, what we put emphasis on when we're speaking. Other things they'll pick up too are politics, our view of family dynamics, of classroom culture, religion. All of these beliefs are communicated through language. They'll learn values from our language. They'll learn values such as the elderly are important citizens in our community. They'll learn that manners matter. They'll learn that we take care of people who need help. They'll also learn about feelings. So perhaps you've heard of that concept of emotional intelligence. Part of emotional intelligence is being able to express your feelings, right? The way you express feelings. And that is modeled through language by the adults. It's also enriched with vocabulary, right? Do we know emotions beyond the basic sad, mad, tired, So when the adult names emotions, names their own emotions when they're speaking, names or inquires about the emotions of the children, they learn to express feelings appropriately and identify their own feelings and the feelings of others. Last on my list here is they learned theory of mind. So theory of mind, in a nutshell, is the ability to recognize that other people have their own thoughts, their own beliefs, their own values, own opinions that belong to that person, and that those thoughts, beliefs, values, and opinions are separate than mine and maybe different than mine. And this, if you have a child or a friend with autism, a student with autism, you may recognize that that's hard. They struggle with that. It's not intuitive for them. They have to do it more as a cognitive process, this understanding. And that's something that we can help all children learn. And for some children, it will come more naturally, more easily. But people do need this skill, this theory of mind, to be able to communicate effectively, to be able to help someone who's maybe in a situation they've never been in, to understand other humans, right? That's how we get along with people, by recognizing that they're different than we are and they think differently. And so we communicate with children in a way that helps them understand we have different thoughts than them. For very young children, like a 1-year-old, right, they just don't understand why people don't get it, right? Why don't they get automatically what I'm feeling? Why don't they feel what I'm feeling? And they learn they have to communicate with the teacher, right? Although we're pretty good at guessing, that they'll have to communicate because what's going on in their mind is different than what's going on in the teacher's mind, and we have to communicate, right? And so eventually they'll be able to guess and recognize and predict what other people are thinking. It's a learned skill. So you probably are thinking of some other things that we learn through language, and this is definitely not an exhaustive list whatsoever. Just the core of what we learn through language. And you may note that the beliefs, values, feelings, and theory of mind certainly are learned through actions, right? Children learn by what we're doing, not just by what we're saying. You probably have heard that expression, about what we do being just as important as what we say, maybe more so. So it's both. And perhaps that's a whole class in itself, the importance of acting out what's important to us in our community, right? Not just talk. All right, well, thank you for following along with me on this lesson.